I've just rewatched, in the last 2 days, I've nearly seen both series. It's really terrific.
That's very keen. Thank you.
Really
thanks very much. Cheers. Thanks.
And it must have been you wrote it and you perform in it.
Yes.
It must have been a tricky, a tricky sell, but also it must have been a hard sitcom to write because of the subject matter.
Yeah, it was.
You've got to get the balance of it right.
Yeah, I look back at it and it feels a long time ago because it was just before sort of COVID, really. And that's a real line in the sand, sort of creatively for me, because I've got a family and stuff and young kids, and COVID was quite hard, you know. But I look back and we did 2 series of Home in 18 months. So I wrote 12 eps and we shot it sort of before COVID hit, and sort of thank God we did, because we probably wouldn't have come back after COVID because TV had just changed so much. But yeah, I started writing it around sort of the Brexit vote, and it was when, you know, Nigel Farage charmingly allied the Brexit situation with the immigration situation, and, you know, made a proposition that, you know, a disappointing amount of people found really compelling. And the show is basically about a white middle-class family who get back from a trip to France, and they find a refugee in the back of their car, and he's stowed away, and he ends up living with us. And so the show was a way of talking about immigration, and in a non-frightening way, and also to talk about Brexit and the way that our newcomer character called Sammy, who is Syrian, was adapting to life in England, but also we all were, because, you know, the country we thought we knew had just behaved in this very weird way, you know. Yeah. And
there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of parallels in it, because it's just, you know, it's very much about family. It's very much about humanity and family.
Yeah.
It's it's a funny show, but it's still covering some quite serious issues.
Yeah.
But, you know, your character is sort of not getting on. So, you know, is a slight interloper himself, in that he's not the father of the child,
the
of the
kid,
family, and also is not getting on that great with the mother. So it's sort of his position in the home is tenuous as well.
Clever, isn't it?
It is very clever. I mean, it's not, but it would be, you know, it would be easy. You know, what I think as a writer, I look at it and go, this is a very fine line, because it would be easy to be, you know, preachy and you know, and go, oh, look at this terrible thing, but equally, you know, it would also be easy to just make some obvious jokes about Brexiteers or immigrants, or whichever way you wanted to go. But it treads the line so finely, I think.
Yeah, that was the idea. We had a series 3 plan that was probably not going to tread the line quite so politely, and I look back and it's quite it is a very sort of soulful show, and I don't regret that at all. But I think we pulled our punches maybe sometimes. But then I think I don't know, on the other hand, we got a lot of response, particularly in the first series. We got a lot of negative response from the far right. You'd be amazed to hear. I know. But what was weird in the second series, amidst that sort of series of responses on YouTube clips and stuff, you'd have the odd voice saying, this show, you know, I've become disenchanted with Brexit, and this show has summed up my sort of journey over the last kind of 2.5 years. And that was, you know, hopefully wasn't bullshit, but it was nice to read. Yeah. And it sort of, we sort of had plans for a 3rd series, and I'm slightly gutted we didn't get to do it.
Yeah, I can see that. And, and I think there's a really nice bit, and there's a really nice bit. I think just in terms of, I think it'd be great if all those people, because it just, you know, it shows that everybody's a human being, right? And on all sides as well, I think. There's a lovely scene when Sammy used to be a teacher in Syria, and he takes them to school, and then he just sort of mimes going, all right, kids, get into school. And it's just, you go, oh, that guy.
Oh, I'd love to take credit for that. I think in my script it was Sammy does something moving, you know. And Yusuf Kapoor, who plays Sammy, just did that on the day. It's one of those where you just think, oh, well, I mean, thank God for that. I mean, it was amazing.
There's a couple of other things I want to pick out. Then one of them might be an obvious one, and one of them isn't an obvious one.
Oh, okay.
There's a character which, you know, might resonate with some people in Brighton, who's a guy who works in the in the place, the hostel, not the hostel exactly, but the place where the immigrants congregate, who Sammy takes the piss out for saying that when you go to these places, it's all white men with dreadlocks. And the character, then he goes there and there's a white man with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
I'd say the actor looks very much like someone who is a white man with dreadlocks in his regular life.
It might have been. I can't remember. I cannot remember, but the people who book the supporting artists are very talented. There are a lot of them walking around.
Yeah, he's good. I just wondered how he felt about that and whether he'd seen the whole script. And
he got paid. He got paid.
Well, he's chosen to have the dreadlocks. He has to.
Come on.
He has to take
Tough business.
He has to take it. Series 2, there's a scene that you've written.
Yes.
And I've done something similar to this, so I'm not going to criticise. I've done something similar to this quite a few times. There's a yucca plant involved, but there's also quite an absence of clothes. I mean, if I said to the people there's some full frontal nudity in this show, it might drag people in to watch it, but
don't do that.
I don't want them to.
No, I basically wrote a scene where my character has a nervous breakdown at work and ends up stripping off and starts throwing a yucca plant around the office. And you write these things, right, about sort of 6 months earlier, and then you sort of forget about it, or you go into a sort of coma of denial, and you sort of think, well, that's months away, and then literally it's the day, and you think, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a lot of nudity on screen.
Yeah.
I've done it about 10 times.
Right.
And I must stress, this is not my comfortable area. But I think people take one look at me and think, yeah, we could laugh at him in that context,
I mean, it is funny. I mean, it's funny because you don't. People take their clothes off on TV and men take their clothes off.
Yeah.
It's quite rare you get the cock and balls in there.
Yeah, cock and balls is. I think it's becoming slightly more popular.
Yeah, a bit more popular.
But you gotta be on a streamer, really, don't you? I think sort of terrestrially, cock and balls remains kind of an enigma.
It's an unusual choice.
Yeah, we shot that in the centre of town actually on a Sunday because you often shoot sort of. And it's a closed set.
They were indoors.
Yeah, indoors. Yeah, not on Tower Bridge or anything. But we were shooting this office space about 6 floors up, and I was doing it and chucking this plant around and sort of being as sort of mad as I could. And I looked over it and I could see someone waking up in the building opposite and making a coffee, looking out the window and seeing me. And all he did was just shut his curtain. It wasn't even surprise. It was just he's getting his knob out again. I think
there he goes again. Yeah. It's a weird. I did a play where the character I wrote was similar. Gets drunk and has a bit of a breakdown and tries to have sex with the skeleton. This was before Saltburn in a grave like an Anglo-Saxon one. I mean, how perverted is that? It's thousands of years old. It's an odd thing to suddenly. And I remember sort of talking to the director and saying, we don't have to be fully naked though, do we? And he goes, well, that's what the writer has written, so you have to. But it is odd when you end up. It's an odd that you can compartmentalise those two things. Yeah. But also, it's sort of a weird thing for us both to have chosen to
bond over.
Come on. But I like because you're a regular looking man. Let's say that.
Thank you.
And as I would say I am. So it's it is good to represent that on TV. But was it good?
No. That is very true because I just finished doing a adaptation of Rivals, which is Jilly Cooper's 80s bonkbuster. We did that for Disney Plus, and that's coming out this year. And there's some very beautiful people in it being naked. And me, and the director came up to me and said, "Look, I think what we could do here is really represent banal nudity with you." And I went, yes, since you put it like that, yeah. So it's but there is something in sort of being naked in a non-sexual way. Yeah, being naked and sort of. I mean, I had to do a scene. I did a play right in the West End about 8 years ago with Steve Pemberton. and Catherine Parkinson and Ralph.
Funny.
It was called Dead Funny.
Yeah.
And I had to be naked for 10 minutes in that, in the opening 20 minutes, when me and Catherine Parkinson are having a sort of very dysfunctional marriage, and she tries to spice it up with some nude massage, where she remains fully clothed, and I have to just agonisingly take all my clothes off, and it just doesn't. And there was one night, no, it was a matinee, in fact, a Saturday matinee, which is always full of slightly elderly people, and they're always much naughtier than the evening audiences, and I just got my cock out, man. Sort of on the floor, Catherine is about to sort of start massaging my shoulders, and we heard a click. We just heard like that, and we looked down at the third row. There was an old lady who had bought a telescope, not binoculars, a fucking telescope. And she bought a little stand. She had like a silver stand with a tripod. And she was just looking through it at me. I saw it. I knew Catherine had seen it. We're just going, oh, this is... And then after a couple of minutes, you're thinking, what could fucking be worse? After a couple of minutes, she just packed it up. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, I think it's quite rude that she was only in the third row and still using the telescope. So that's
yeah, she had it the other way round. Get away from me.
Yeah, it's the second series. You presumably got the same crew. Was that a weird thing for them to suddenly see? I mean, you're sort of the... I had the same thing with my last ITV thing. I had a nude scene that my cock wasn't going to be on TV, but I was nude, so they all saw my cock.
Yeah.
And at one point, the close-up camera was just on my cock, and the script supervisor was just looking at the monitor of my cock, and she said it was a bit weird. And we'd only worked together for a couple of days, so. Was it weird for them to suddenly see
know.
you?
Do you know, crew in TV are very good, particularly now, of pretending like it's not weird. So everyone will just sort of be, while you've got your willy out, everyone will be talking very knowledgeably about football or something, or anything other than, the elephant in the room. And
it's not an elephant. I've seen it. It's not an elephant.
Baby.
Little mouse. Little hibernating mouse.
Which ones have the smaller ears? But no, especially now, no one is made to feel awkward.
Yeah.
And on this Chili Cooper thing, we had so many intimacy coordinators. I think we probably had 30% of the UK's current working intimacy coordinators on it, and they're brilliant. They've changed the whole game.
Yeah.
Because you have to talk about it. In the old days, no one would really talk about it.
No.
You just sort of do it, and everyone would be very British and talk about the football or the weather or whatever. And he's got a cock out, oh dear. And it's better now, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm glad you liked it. That's good.
The show.
Yeah.